Hi there, friends. My name's Eli. I'm one of the co-hosts of TechSoup Connect Canada. So today's guest is Eva Zheng, who is the founder of Empact, a platform that helps mission-driven organizations turn powerful films into actionable campaigns by connecting audiences with ways to donate, volunteer, advocate, and learn more immediately after a screening. So in this webinar, we're going to explore how you could integrate calls to action and partnerships in using the film into like the campaigns you're building, whether you're a grassroots organization or a big national nonprofit. We're going to explore these ways for you to turn empathy into sustained support. Lots of details are going to be revealed as we go through this. So with that, let me pass the baton over to Eva.
So, my name is Eva Zheng, Eva like from Wally, Eva. And I am the founder of Empact, which is the first action-oriented discovery platform for impact entertainment, coupled with direct call to actions so you can activate your audiences right when they are most activated to do good. Our mission is to equip both nonprofits and storytellers with action-oriented tools to mobilize audiences for measurable and sustainable change. My hope in the future of having this organization is that all social impact entertainment have call to actions that connect audiences with nonprofits who are on the ground doing the work mentioned in the themes of the film, book, or any other forms of art that activates emotions. So quick story of myself. I actually come from the startup world. I have been in the technology space and nonprofit space for the past 10 years. I am the board director of a nonprofit called Hacker Fund, where we bring education to inner city school districts in Los Angeles, California, and these things called hackathons. And my life mission has always been to bridge empathy gaps. Empathy is not a given in any human. Some people are born with more, some people are born with less. But what I found is really effective at creating empathy, no matter what the situation, is storytelling. And Empact is my way of bridging that distance between having empathy and actually transforming that into action. All right. So today's agenda. I will start with a little bit of background of the current fundraising challenges I'm a very data-driven person, so I have a lot of numbers and statistics to throw out. And then we'll go into why films and why storytelling as the bridge for fundraising. And then go into a little demo of what our company is, what we provide. And then lastly, wrap up with active opportunities and different call to actions for our audience here today. I would love to hear from you guys. What is your number one fundraising challenge currently? And feel free to either come off mute for a second or drop it in the chat. Yes. Thank you. Keep them coming. Yes, following a membership, engaging donors, and I will be going through that. Canadian charitable giving grew to 22 billion. We don't have stats yet for 2024, I believe, but individuals gave about 12.8 billion, which accounts for 58% of all donations. In the US, I believe this number is around 500 to 600 billion. And the individual donations are roughly about the same percentage in the 60%. And that's kind of what I'm going to be focusing on today, which are the individual donations separate from foundation grants, corporate donations, and all of that. So the three things that I will go through, primary challenges today, is donor engagement, awareness of your nonprofit organization and what you do, and the overall industry challenge of how do you get someone to actually trust that your nonprofit is doing the work that you are doing and having trust enough to decide to volunteer and want to donate. So over 85% of nonprofits have recurring giving. However, as we have seen in the chat, some recent years saw new donors drop by 17% and newly retained donors by 18%. And for trust, 73% of donors actually say trust is basically 9 out of 10 importance when they decide to donate to a nonprofit. So my proposal here is, what if there was a solution to address all three challenges at once? Now, emotional storytelling drives action. Films and stories, even books, create emotional connections and shared experiences. Think about the last time you watched a film or even a TV show that really made you feel something, that made your heart pump, that made you cry. And think about why. Was it because someone was going through mental health situations that you really resonated with? Was it because I watched a new film called The Last Dive, which is about a veteran creating a relationship with a manta ray? And man, watching these experience and relationship develop between him and the manta rays really resonated. And so at the end of all these films, I often found myself thinking, okay, so what do I do now? How do I support climate organizations that are working to help our ocean animals? What are some nonprofit organizations that are working on helping out with mental health, especially maybe in adolescence? I've been working with my group of interns, and they often cite Euphoria as one of their favorite TV shows because it just touches on so many aspects of life. And if you think about it, or even read about it, research from Stanford found that people are 22 times more likely to remember facts presented in the form as a story, because probably have situations where people tell you, a list of facts, and you recognize, you understand how important it is, but it doesn't actually sink in until you emotionally get activated because you can empathize now. And what I've also found that fundraising campaigns with video receives 114% more funding. Kind of the saying goes, picture is worth 1,000 words. You can only imagine what video would be worth. And on the right is a little snapshot example of what this could look like on an Empact platform. Again, with donor engagement, donors want meaningful engagement, not just financial asks, right? I think obviously the number one thing is, okay, donate, because then we can increase capacity and execute on all of the goals that we want to achieve. However, I think a lot of donors are feeling fatigued from just asking them to contribute financially, especially with our current state of the economy. But the thing about getting people to donate, as you might have read in other research, is that it requires several touch points, up to like 10 touch points before someone actually goes from being, just a passive consumer to becoming an active donor. So what are other actions you can get them to take in order to start really drawing them in to become these community heroes? So other custom call to actions that we have on our campaign site is, for example, what are some learning resources you can do? What are some events that are coming up that your nonprofit is hosting? What are some things that they can volunteer at? Or even as simple as sharing a testimonial for either the film or the nonprofit itself, and posting on social media, which in the next slide, little few slides down the line, we will show you why social media is so important. And so for trust, third-party endorsements. When you partner with a film, there's hundreds, thousands of nonprofits that might be working on mental health and climate change, for example. So how do you know which ones to actually donate to? When Filmmaker decides to partner with you as their impact/community partner, it creates that trust-based relationship where the audiences know that, this nonprofit has already been vetted by the filmmaker. And so it improves public perceptions just by you sharing the impact of your mission by partnering with that film. They immediately know what your nonprofit stands for, why your nonprofit exists, and what is the change that you are hoping to see. Going back to emotions and empathy is what drives action, not just facts and data. Thoughts and beliefs affects feelings and emotion, which then turns into action and behavior. And that is the whole goal of someone becoming a storyteller and creating a film. Their number one thing is to, hopefully receive an Oscar award, right? And the films that receive Oscar awards create really compelling stories. So if that is their goal, why not partner with them? There is an alternate reality, and I won't go into this too much, where your nonprofit has the funds to actually hire maybe a videographer or hire an agency to help create your own short film. And that is 100% another path to go as well. However, it takes $0, right, to find a filmmaker that you want to partner with who already has a film out there. And I'll go into this later on in the slide too, but you can see how it actually becomes a reciprocal relationship because the filmmakers actually want to find community partners as well. Going into building awareness, how do you reach entirely new communities while re-engaging your current base of donors? When you partner with films, they are already going to film festivals. They're already organizing their own, friends and family screenings. But their story doesn't change. The emotions that the audiences feel at the end of every film, their desire to want to help doesn't change. So what happens when you can not only tap into your existing community of your nonprofit community, and also into the new film audiences who might not have known about your organization at all to start? An example of this, for example, is Empact my company creates these educational posts that highlights different films and also why it's important. And on social media, you can actually add another account as a collaborator. And when they accept that collaboration request, it shows up on their Instagram profile as well. So let's say your nonprofit organization only has, let's say, 100 followers. But the moment a filmmaker accepts the collaboration request, and let's say they have followers, it gets sent to everyone of those followers will be able to see that because now it is displayed on their profile as well. So again, these partnerships, what do you call it? It's like a logarithmic curve of how much exposure and awareness you can have through partnerships. And as you can see, because a swim lesson was actually shown at Doc NYC, you then bring in the festival to also comment and respond to the Instagram post. And so it just creates this community and extra awareness around everyone. And this is why social media is important. Millennials and Gen X. Social media is the number one way that people get inspired to give. And if you think about it, social media is all about pictures and all about videos. So 1,000 times like 100 words, right? And emails are effective because then you can consistently follow up and it's easier to deliver links. So where social media falls short, which is it's hard to click through into your website to go to the donations, but it's higher emotional engagement. Email, it's easier to have those call to actions, but it's a little harder to get them emotionally engaged. So no matter what, you will always need a two-pronged approach. However, social media is very effective. And especially when everyone's already online, they can usually do debit/credit card transactions. Oh, and if they're on mobile, Empact campaign as a platform actually allows people to also do Apple Pay because we use a platform called every.org that actually allows people to even give crypto. And so it just makes it really, moving it forward to 2025 technology. Ooh, the other thing about reaching new audiences is you can then partner with a film to host screenings for corporations. Thank you, Eli. And when you host events at corporations, you directly target corporate employees. And the magic about certain corporate employees is that their company sometimes does donation matching. I won't give the name of the company because I'm not exactly sure. It might be PayPal or Amazon. But they do up to $10,000 in donation matching. So if one person just felt so compelled to give the maximum, let's say 10,000, it immediately becomes 20K because the company does automatic corporate matching. And so when you partner with filmmakers, you can come to these corporations as like a full package by saying, you don't even have to create your own event. You can say, hey, we just want to host a streaming event for your D&I initiative, for your ERG programs, ERG, which means employee resource groups. So for example, for AAPI month, there were many AAPI organizations that showed films, right? AAPI films at the corporation. So at the end, with a call to action on Empact's campaign page, you can then get the employees to donate and take action. So as a quick problem versus solution summary, engagement, trust, and awareness. Reactivation rates, as someone mentioned in the chat, sometimes it's hard to reactivate them. So when you bring them in by saying, hey, do you want to watch a movie? Instead of just saying, hey, do you want to donate? Films with call to action see up to a 200% surge in outreach to related nonprofits because now people are inspired, they are activated. 21% also chose appealing stories as their top factor that a charity is trustworthy. And again, campaigns paired with video receives 114% more funding. And just a quick little background. So when I mentioned before about reciprocal relationships, filmmakers are also looking for community and impact partners. Why? A quick short story. Sundance Film Festival. We've heard of it, right? Back, let's say about 10 years ago, out of 100 films that make it to Sundance, at least 20% would secure distribution deals. What distribution deals means is that they get their film shown on Netflix, they get their film shown on Apple TV or Hulu. They have a place to house their films so that they can start reaching new audiences. This year from Sundance, basically 0 films came out of directly after the Sundance Festival. Only months afterwards that maybe 5 films secure distribution. The rest of them have to now figure out, how do I get people to watch my film, right? Because you've spent 8, 5, 10 years making this, and then now what? So on a broad scale, these numbers are, when I first entered the entertainment industry, I was appalled, but less than 1% of films secure traditional distribution deals, which is again, like Netflix, Hulu, all these streaming platforms. And it's a time-intensive and laborious process. So the reason why they're looking for community/impact partners is because then you get to tap into your existing community to get those people to watch the film. And if anyone is interested in showing their film to their friends, they would be able to sign up to become a screening host and then show films that way. There's 2 amazing platforms called Gather and Kinema, where they actually do a revenue sharing. So if your nonprofit signs up to be a host of this screening, you get 45% of all ticket sales. So there are solutions out there that's making it easier and easier for you to help become not just an impact partner, but also a distribution partner. So then it increases your fundraising channels to do 2 different strategies. One is capturing that emotion, and the other is becoming a distribution partner for that film. And so the other thing is, another survey that I found said that 80% of audiences actually want to engage further with causes after they watch the film. But the reason why I started this company is because many media out there lack that direct call to action. What Empact is a discovery platform. We aim to be the IMDb, but for social impact films. It's kind of like, imagine change.org meets IMDb. Once you find a film that has an impact lens to it, what are all of the different ways that you can now take action, including donation, making it super easy for people to just do that and combine everything instead of opening up like 5 different tabs of figuring out what the next step is. We are currently building this out, a partnerships marketplace, which is, if you are a nonprofit who are looking for an impact film to partner with, I'll give the call to action later, but be sure to sign up on our festival. Sign up on our website and just enter our newsletter, because once that's live, we would love to start testing out this marketplace with nonprofits who are actively looking for these kind of partnerships. So what this looks like: on the left, you see an example campaign page, and on the right, you see our nonprofits, where you can actually search for nonprofits that are related to a film. Let's see. I'll go through the product demo now. Actually, before I go into the product, I'll give like a quick 10 seconds to see if anyone has questions to come off mute or just enter in the chat. All right. So here is where we browse our campaigns. We make it really easy for you to check what kind of impact themes you're looking for. So for example, if I wanted to do human rights, what are the films that might be related to human rights, to our culture? What are films that might be related to climate and environment? And we actually recently last year partnered with Climate Film Festival in New York. So we have all of the films that were ever present in their festival. And at the end of every screening, we would have a QR code that says "Take action now." And so the audiences would then scan that QR code to be led to the campaign page. So these are some examples. And not only can you filter by impact category, but we also have intersectional voices. So if you're looking for AAPI films, or if you are looking for things to do with justice or girl empowerment, you can filter by this as well. And once you go into the campaign page, every campaign will always have a media summary and their impact. And a fully built out campaign, for example, we recently partnered with 36 Seconds Portrait of a Hate Crime. You would be able to either one, contribute to their impact campaign, or look through all of the actions and partner nonprofits here. And again, we make it really easy for you to donate by partnering with every.org, so that once you click donate, you can just do the credit card. And I remember someone in the chat said you can't accept credit card donations. I would love for you to check out if you're able to get your organization on every.org, because they partner with PayPal grants to then deliver the donations to your nonprofit. So they're kind of acting as an intermediary, but they make it so easy for people to be able to donate directly. And when they do that from the campaign, you'll actually see that we have an impact dashboard that shows you how much engagement that you're actually getting. So for the filmmaker and nonprofit, you can create the campaign page, and it takes less than 5 minutes to get everything set up. And then you can activate them with custom call to actions. So as you may have noticed, for example, these call to actions are donate to cause, tell us more about you. And then for, let's say, innate, this is contribute to campaign. You can bookmark it. And for the last ecstatic days, you can donate to cause and everything else. So all these buttons are customizable depending on what you want your audiences to do. And when you use Empact, again, going back to how I'm very data-driven to, balance the empath/emotional side of myself, you'll be able to see how much impact you're actually creating through this partnership. How many donations came in? How many emails did you collect? So again, this isn't just, creating call to actions, but you're able to kind of create the entire ecosystem of capturing exactly what your engagement metrics are. Because then when you apply for additional grant funding, you can say, I'm partnering with this film and we have already collected this much in donations and activated this many people. Here's what we're trying to get to next. So, as you may or may not know already, grant reviewers love seeing metrics and data.
Yeah. And also funders need some kind of source of like matching funds or others participating. And this is one of those creative ways you can sort of show other kind of community support. Another hack I've often heard from people is they include like what they get from Google ad grants. So, they're like, well, I spent $5,000 on free Google ad grants. That's matching in-kind support from another organization. So again, those are the kinds of things you could use to weave the story, even if you don't necessarily have someone who just gave you a $5,000 check.
Thank you. And for how we partner, again, as a summary, we have network amplification through social media. We have campaigns connecting community partners. And sometimes even if you have a brand sponsor or a corporation that is supporting your nonprofit, maybe they want their logos to be placed in different places. This is on a custom case-by-case basis, but we might be able to incorporate that into your campaign page as well as an additional perk, right, for these corporations. And on a festival level, this is a sneak preview into our current active opportunities. But on a festival level, what happens is there are hundreds of people that show up to festivals and watch different films. And we partner with them by having this QR code lead to an Empact campaign site. And so you would be able to get an impact report. And again, be able to see many films at once for who might be the most aligned with your nonprofit's mission. And I'll go into that a little bit more in the final slides. Here are our current existing partners that we've worked with. I'll highlight a few of them, which is Global Impact Producers Alliance is something to keep note of. I am a member of this alliance as an impact producer myself. And what an impact producer means is you have producers on a film, which is basically the COO of the film. They handle all the operations, getting things together, budgeting, casting, everything, so on. The impact producer is everything on that realm, but for impact. What do you want your audience call to actions to be? What are the nonprofit partners that you can partner with? And so they are kind of the liaison between you and the filmmaker, if the filmmaker has enough budget or connections to bring on an impact producer. On the left are different film festivals that we've worked with. And I would mention that New Day Films also, they are more educational distributions. So how do you get films into colleges and universities? And again, if you partner with that film, you'd be able to expand your reach into the educational sector as well. And E2AC is one of our nonprofit partners that allows us to provide fiscal sponsorship for the films that we work with in case any films that come on board that don't already have a nonprofit status and you want to make sure that people's contributions are tax deductible. So the timing of this is actually perfect because we are in the final stages of finalizing a partnership between Empact and Asian American International Film Festival. This is both in New York and online. This is probably for the US audience, but I will say that when we partnered with them last year, one of the films is Ane. And Ane talked about the immigration pathway specifically between the Philippines and Canada. And so at film festivals, even though they might be in New York or LA, there are international films that come that can again loop back to international nonprofits. And that way you can still find films to work together. And here is the film website, in case you want to check it out. We are currently in the process of putting together campaigns for their films. And if you would like to be part of this opportunity, be sure to email me afterwards, especially if you take a look at their films and find anything that you specifically want to partner with. Because again, filmmakers kind of have their hands full with submitting to film festivals, figuring out their distribution strategy and social media. So if a nonprofit was to approach them and say, hey, we would like to be your community partner, oh my God, you would make them so happy. So there's Asian American Film Festival. And I would say that about wraps it up. Let's shape the future of fundraising and storytelling together. My email is eva@empact.fyi. I'll drop it in the chat. And it would be super helpful if you would sign up to our newsletter on our company website, because then I'll be able to follow up with you and let you know about our marketplace when we launch. And again, if you email me directly and tell me how you are looking to explore, I will respond and we can chat then. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Eva. That's really fascinating. I was really struck by this opportunity to basically deepen relationships in several different ways, whether that's a relationship with these filmmakers and these festivals. So you can basically say like, okay, how can I leverage their own networks to sort of bring them into my own community of potential donors and people who are passionate about the issues. But it also was really struck by the way it could solve a problem that every fundraiser's ever had, which is you talk to a corporate donor and they're like, yes, I think we'd give you some money, but can you find and experience a volunteer engagement for 50 of my staff? And for so many nonprofits, that just doesn't work. It doesn't fit the kind of work they do, or maybe they're working with like youth. Like there's all kinds of organizations where they really struggle to say, how could I find a way to work with these outside partners and give them some kind of engagement opportunity that otherwise is so impossible to deliver. So I thought that was a really fascinating opportunity that comes out of this too. Friends, keep throwing questions into the chat. And yes, Jay, I will definitely be recording this and I'll share the link by the end of the week with everyone who registered by email. So I'll make sure that you have that available as well. While the rest of you are throwing questions into the chat, let me throw a couple of them at you, Eva. As a nonprofit person, everything I do always comes down to this idea of the engagement ladder. And I'm wondering, like, do you have any thoughts around how you could recommend turning this single screening into a broader opportunity? Like, what are some of the follow-up tactics that you've seen that work beyond that film night? Because I think what you've done is you created something that's really good in the film night of converting people to donors, to volunteers. But what could you do after that film night, after the big explosion?
Yeah. So, for example, after a screening, I will plug in and say what we've seen work really well at these film festivals is actually, as everyone probably already knows, just having a QR code there doesn't get people to scan it. You have to say, okay, here's how you can take action and pull out your phones and scan it. So after they get onto that page, it's, how do I say this? People have often said, but what is a $5 donation going to do, right? And my response to that is, in order to build a snowman, you have to start with just a snowball. And whatever you can do to get them to be engaged, whether it's signing up. So I think one of the call to actions on here is tell us more about you. And another campaign page might be get in touch. When you click get in touch, people will be able to send you their email. And once you do that, you have to nurture them, get them to go onto an event, get them to have a conversation. Ooh, after one of the screenings that we did, for example, for 36 seconds, we partnered with a called Peace Through Action. And so after the film screening, we had a discussion group and we posed a few questions to the audiences and got everyone to come off mute, just like what Jay is going to do, and kind of share their experiences and have this vulnerable, intimate moment with each other. So beyond just capturing emotion of the film, you get this community connection with everyone who showed up to that screening. So especially for a nonprofit, if you are showing this screening, don't just end the film. Try to make time for like an intimate discussion afterwards. Even if you have like a huge base of people, let's say it's 100 people, break people out into discussion groups, right? Talk about how this is a safe space / brave space. Don't be afraid to share your thoughts and emotions, and give context of like whatever you share in the Zoom chat will not be shared with other people, to help people feel like they can get vulnerable and share your own story. Because when that happens, again, it really cements in their brain the value that you brought to them as a nonprofit. And that's how you build trust and engagement.
So, Jay, it sounds like you've had a little bit of that same kind of experience based on what I've seen in the chat here. Can you tell us just a teeny bit about your organization and how do you what was this film night presentation you did and how did it convert people into your community?
If you are able to come off mute, but yes, climate fast.
But yeah, for those who are in the chat, you can see like basically Jay saying, so a few of our members told us that one of our film presentations led them to join our community-based organization. And so they make time for discussions following the films to really get people's opinions and perspectives for the Climate Fast. And they used one of Rod Stewart's films, which I believe is that the one that's the fellow who did a lot of diving and work with sharks in like shark water. Ah, yes, great. So we'll share a link to that film as well. Actually, a friend of mine was their executive director for a bit.
Yeah.
So the world is super duper connected. I have another question here about finding the right fit. So the question really is, for some organizations have a clear activist story. I used to work for the David Suzuki Foundation. We had stories coming out of our ears, like things that were compelling. But some people work in maybe a bit more silent or more policy focused kind of work. What kind of films are you seeing that tend to work well with the experience you built out with your app? Can an artistic film work for these kind of engagement goals? Like, what are you seeing work so far?
Oh my God, I love this question. Thank you for asking this question. So when we talk about impact entertainment and call to actions, I think our immediate brain goes to documentaries. And I love challenging people on that because my favorite short film ever is called Mosquito Lady. And it's actually a horror film. And when I held a short film night, this film was the one that engaged audiences the most to take action about body autonomy, especially for women, because the film itself was based off a Filipino folklore called the Manananggal. And the horror film was basically following this girl who had to go to this monster because she didn't have access to regular abortion clinics, or her parents didn't allow her to do that. And so it wasn't very like, it wasn't facts driven at all, right? But it more centered on the artistic interpretation of the emotional and experience of a certain theme. Blood Diamond is another example with Leonardo DiCaprio that helped jumpstart a whole entire movement of lab-grown diamonds versus blood diamond. And it got to the point where, jewelry stores literally put up signs on their storefront that says conflict free. And so films don't have to be documentary. In fact, I think narrative, which is fiction, are super, potentially even more effective at driving change.
We love that because I think you're right. My brain also said like, oh, documentaries, you got it. And you're really challenging us to say like, actually, no, go deep into narrative, like explore, do a short film festival, like do some unexpected approaches because that's often, or to the name of your organization, that's how we can really build. So I have another question, which is lots of organizations, we spend a lot of time like trying to build our own identity, our brand, and now we're doing something on someone else's platform. What's our opportunity to like sort of customize these pages to sort of bring some of our organization's identity into a landing page?
That's a fantastic question. So, like I said, we are exploring what it could look like for us to add additional logos or change brand colors for the specific campaign pages. We haven't seen this be a deal breaker for partnerships just yet, but even for the logo on each campaign page, right now we have pictures that represent the film. But if you have a custom image of, the nonprofit and then the film name, you can put something together on Canva in like 10 minutes, you'd be able to replace that campaign header title and insert your own branding into that. And as well with the custom call to action, all of that will lead back to your site. I would say that Empact campaign pages are not meant to replace a film's website or a nonprofit's website. They are meant as an additional channel that really focuses on the behavioral psychology of the audience member who just finished watching the film. Instead of having like 1,000 links for them to look through, how do you concentrate that into either donation, accessing resources, or sharing on social media and any other custom call to action?
So here's one more question that comes to mind. So I've got a friend who works at the Vancouver International Film Festival, and he talks a lot about like the licensing of films or like for distribution in these public ways, a world I don't really understand. And I'm a little bit intimidated by that. Can you walk us through what those concerns potentially are around making sure we have the rights to broadcast a film and whether there might be any support around that?
Straightforward and simple answer. I mentioned, I'm going to drop this into the chat. Kinema and Gather are the two companies. I think maybe Eventive as well, which I know a lot of festivals use to collect all their films. Those platforms specifically help distribute the film, so they take care of all the legalities.
Right.
What the filmmaker does is they upload their film onto Kinema or Gather, and all of that security, privacy side is all handled by them. And so you come on as a screening partner and their platform walks you through what it looks like to screen the film.
Great. So there's basically aggregating sites that sort of make that an easier process. Fabulous. Here we are coming up towards the end of the hour. So Eva, I want to say thank you. This has been really fascinating and has helped stretch my brain into ways I didn't expect around how film can actually be used outside of like the obvious way, honestly, and a way to turn that one-off event into something where there's actually strong calls to action because we all come out of things with intention. We're like, we're really excited, like we're gonna go change the world, and then we get home and the dog like spilled something or something terrible happened and we get distracted. And so finding some way where we can actually capture that interest in the moment and convert it, I think is really a really powerful and interesting problem to be solved. And with that, let's wrap it all up. Thank you all for being part of this. I hope to see you at our next event.